There are women who bear unseen wounds that shape them into survivors long before they understood what struggle truly was. You may be one of them. The woman who learned to rely on herself, not out of preference, but out of necessity. The one who found her strength in the quiet space of abandonment, in the lack of the support she should have received. Carl Jung recognized that our deepest injuries often turn into our strongest sources of insight. He explained that suffering awakens deep archetypal defenses within us, activating what he described as the wise old woman and the wounded healer. These are not simply ideas from ancient myths. They exist within you, formed in moments when no one was watching, when no one was offering praise, yet you continued to move forward. This path through 7 distinct marks will show how your independence reshaped you into something more complex than you may realize. Each trait carries both the burden of what you endured and the quiet strength of who you became. These are not simple personality features, but archetypal imprints etched into your inner life. The first mark appears in your heightened intuition, a sharp awareness that detects dishonesty before your conscious mind can fully interpret the signals. A woman who had to stand alone develops a way of perceiving that goes beyond ordinary awareness. Your intuition sharpened because trust became a risk. Jung would describe this as direct contact with what he called the collective unconscious, where ancient knowledge of survival and self-protection exists. This is not mystical thinking. It is a defense mechanism formed from learning that words can deceive, while energy does not. Your body learned to sense environments before your mind could explain the reason. A look held for too long. A silence filled with meaning. A gesture that feels misaligned. You develop this awareness not as a gift, but as a response to necessity. The wise woman archetype within you awakened when innocence became too expensive. Now you notice what others overlook, sense what others dismiss, and understand what others choose not to admit. The deep memory of betrayal trained your nervous system to communicate quietly before danger fully reveals itself. You have learned to trust the pressure in your chest when someone's words fail to align with their presence. The unexplainable pull to exit certain environments, the way your body resists what your mind has not yet processed. This embodied intelligence moves quicker than conscious thought and with greater precision than logical analysis. Have you ever noticed how your inner sense often speaks more clearly than pure logic? How you can pick up on someone's intentions even before they put them into words. What others may label as paranoia is, in reality, a form of deep awareness. You learn to rely on the intelligence of your nervous system because it protected you when nothing else could. Still, this ability comes with weight. At times you perceive too much, feel with great intensity, and understand with sharp clarity. The world can feel exposed in ways that become difficult to manage. Yet this awareness, this understanding, this refined intuition is one of your strongest assets. It keeps you protected. It keeps you genuine. It preserves your independence. This heightened sensitivity often brings a unique sense of isolation. You detect patterns in relationships that others overlook. You identify emotional manipulation before it fully takes shape. You feel the subtle currents of situations that remain unseen by those around you. At times, you wonder whether your perceptions are accurate or if constant alertness has created misleading signals. But again and again, experience confirms that your inner guidance is right. The second sign appears in your quiet self-confidence, in the way you move through the world without needing to draw attention to yourself. You carry what Jung described as a grounded authority, the kind that develops through years of standing firmly in your own strength when no one else chose to stand beside you. This is not about control or force. It is something much deeper. It is the calm authority of a person who has fully encountered herself. You do not need to speak loudly, because your presence communicates enough. Others feel it right away. There is a quality about you that cannot be controlled, cannot be reduced, and cannot be made lesser. This unsettles some people because it confronts social ideas about how women are expected to exist in the world. Your sense of self challenges the belief that you should look for validation, should shrink yourself, or should prioritize others' comfort over your own. This authority was shaped in the experience of abandonment. When there was no one to depend on, you learned to depend on yourself. When support was absent, you became your own source of stability. Jung referred to this as individuation, the path toward psychological completeness. You reached it not through formal learning or therapeutic guidance, but through the basic need to endure. The inner reorganization that took place during your solitude formed something unforeseen, while others built their identity through external approval and social reflection. You were compelled to uncover your identity from within. This independent formation of self creates a distinct kind of confidence, one that doesn't need constant validation because it was never built on the approval of others. How much of your resilience was formed in true isolation? In times when the world seemed to overlook you, yet you chose not to abandon yourself. The quiet sense of authority you now possess comes directly from those unseen struggles, those personal wins, those subtle moments of self-selection when no one else stepped in. The third indicator appears in your deep ability to tolerate difficult silence. You learned how to exist within emptiness without letting it consume you. While many avoid stillness, you have learned to coexist with it. Jung recognized that what he described as the negative mother complex could drive a person into intense isolation. In your experience, however, that isolation became meaningful rather than damaging. You remained present with your pain without feeling the need to display it. You endured emotional loss without seeking an audience. You confronted your inner challenges privately and came through not resentful, but more aware. The silence that once felt overwhelming gradually became a place of refuge, a source of insight, and a reliable guide. This ability to remain alone with yourself, without escape or self-numbing, is uncommon in a world that avoids self-reflection. You learn to recognize the sacred within empty spaces, the divine within quiet moments, and the depth within hours that appear unfilled. Your connection with solitude has shifted from a method of coping into a meaningful spiritual discipline. Can you remain with yourself without seeking entertainment, without craving outside approval, without using noise to silence the voice of your own inner being? This capacity to stay present with your inner world, even when it is uncomfortable, is one of your deepest strengths. It shows that you understand yourself in ways that those who constantly chase distraction never will. Moving into the fourth mark, your ability to love while maintaining clear boundaries reflects a level of wisdom that only comes from loving poorly in the past and learning from those experiences. You love with depth and sincerity, but you no longer give love at the cost of your own inner well-being. Jung described the mother archetype as one who gives endlessly until she is exhausted and empty. You moved beyond this pattern not through self-centeredness, but through intentional self-protection. There was a period when you mistook love for sacrifice. When you thought that caring required losing yourself, you offered everything you had and received very little in return. You emptied yourself for people who never paused to notice whether you were running out. Yet somewhere in that state of exhaustion, you realized something deeply important. Love that excludes self-respect is not truly love. Now, your love includes clear boundaries that safeguard the inner space you have built within yourself. You say no not out of harshness, but out of understanding. You support others without dissolving into their experiences. You show care without taking responsibility for results beyond your control. This shift from automatic caregiving to intentional, balanced love represents one of the most meaningful personal developments a woman can experience. Learning to love with limits required releasing generations of beliefs that taught women that goodness meant disappearing into others' needs. Reclaiming your right to exist fully within your own relationships felt both empowering and unsettling at the same time. Every boundary you established felt like a small act of disloyalty to who you believed you were supposed to be, until you understood that you were actually letting go of who you thought others expected you to become. Have you come to understand the difference between truly loving someone and losing yourself within them, between supporting others and fading into their demands? Your love now reflects the self-respect of someone who has reclaimed her own value. This is not a selfish form of love, it is enduring love. It is the kind of love that can survive because it does not require your self-erasure as evidence of its sincerity. The fifth sign shows itself through your strong resilience without a sense of victimhood. Your resilience did not grow from ignoring pain, but from the transformative process of turning hardship into insight. Jung would say you integrated your shadow without becoming bitter, that you confronted your inner darkness without extinguishing your light. You do not turn your pain into a weapon against others, nor do you use it as a reason to stay stuck. Instead, you learn to treat it as nourishment for growth, as a compass for direction, and as energy for change. Your story carries pain, but it also brings clarity. Your wounds became entry points to deeper awareness, not only of yourself, but of the broader human condition. This resilience is not the fragile type that collapses under strain. It is the adaptive strength of someone who has bent without breaking so many times that flexibility has become a natural response. You've learned to move through turmoil not by becoming rigid, but by staying adaptable, aware, and aligned with the natural cycles of change and healing. The real question is whether you allow pain to shape your growth or use it as a reason to remain limited. That single choice defines the line between people who develop through adversity and those who remain confined by it. You opted for progress even when it demanded more from you. Even when remaining small felt safer, even when no one was present to recognize your resolve, you still chose to move forward. The sixth indicator appears as full emotional and functional self-reliance. This goes beyond managing your finances or handling challenges on your own, although you are capable of both. It reflects something deeper. You stopped waiting for approval to fully participate in your own life. You no longer depend on others to confirm your emotions because you trust your internal sense of direction. You don't look for endorsement before making choices because you've built the inner leadership needed to direct yourself. You don't wait to be selected because you've already committed to yourself so completely that outside validation now matters less than inner alignment. Jung would likely see in you what he described as a well-formed ego structure, one shaped through the breakdown of outdated attachments and unreliable supports. You became your own point of balance, not out of pride, but out of necessity. When life made it clear that you could not rely on others for emotional grounding, you learned to create that grounding from within. This level of independence can unsettle people because it questions the idea that women are incomplete without external support. Your sense of completeness challenges systems that benefit from portraying you as lacking. Yet you have moved past concern for those responses, having found something far more meaningful than validation, true self-respect. This self-reliance goes beyond practical independence and reaches into the area of emotional self-management. You have learned to comfort yourself in times of distress, to acknowledge your victories even when no one else notices, and to provide the care and attention you once longed for from others. This self-parenting creates a stability that external relationships can enhance but never destabilize. The transformation from emotional dependency to independent self-reliance did not occur overnight. It required countless moments of choosing your own guidance over the opinions of others, your own truth over external approval, your own pace over societal pressures. Each decision to honor your inner wisdom reinforced the foundation of unshakable self-trust that now supports everything you build. Are you still waiting to be recognized and chosen? Or have you learned to recognize and choose yourself with the respect you deserve? This shift from seeking external validation to cultivating internal acknowledgement changes everything about how you navigate the world. The seventh and final mark may be the most profound. It is the strength that needs no audience. You have learned to handle what must be done without fanfare, to bear what must be borne without complaint, and to endure what must be endured without turning it into a performance for others. Jung would identify in you the archetype of the inner hero, the one who journeys through internal wastelands in silence, confronts inner demons without witnesses, and conquers personal mountains without expecting rewards. Your battles take place in the unseen realm, where true transformation occurs, far from the eyes of those who only acknowledge struggle when it disrupts their comfort. You do not broadcast your strength because it does not need others' validation to be real. You don't display your resilience for show. It exists for survival and personal growth. You don't seek applause for enduring challenges because the recognition that truly matters comes from within, from knowing you stood by yourself when no one else did. This subtle strength can be puzzling to a world that expects suffering to be dramatic and triumph to be celebrated publicly. Yet, you've realized that the most meaningful victories are often quiet, the deepest strength often unseen, and the most profound healing occurs in the private sanctuary of your own soul. Can you honor your own brilliance even when it goes unnoticed? Can you respect your journey even when there are no external witnesses? The ability to affirm your own experiences, acknowledge your growth, and quietly celebrate your achievements may be the most empowering skill you've cultivated. As we delve into the core of these 7 marks, a deeper truth becomes clear. You are living proof that the human spirit can not only endure abandonment, but also transform it into a source of unwavering inner authority. Your journey reflects something greater than personal resilience. It links you to an ancient lineage of women who also had to stand strong alone, who also had to nurture themselves, who also had to become their own ancestors. Integrating these 7 marks shapes a woman of remarkable depth. Your refined intuition guides decisions that others might wrestle with for months. Your quiet authority earns respect without demanding attention. Your ease with solitude allows for relationships that are chosen not out of neediness. Your love with boundaries creates connections based on mutual respect rather than dependence. Jung taught that true healing occurs when we embrace the parts of ourselves we once rejected, when we welcome the fragments we once tried to discard. You have done this work not in comfortable therapy spaces, but in the raw laboratory of real life. You have become whole not through adding anything, but through acceptance. Not by discovering missing pieces, but by realizing that you were never truly broken. Your strength now carries a new quality compared to when it first arose from necessity. It is no longer desperate or clinging, no longer founded on what you lacked. It has become generative, creative, and magnetic in its authenticity. You do not attract people who need you to be weak so they can feel strong. You draw those who can honor strength without trying to lessen it. The woman you have become acts as a bridge between the frightened girl you once were and the wise woman you continue to grow into. You have learned to nurture your own inner child with the gentleness you once longed for from others. You have learned to meet your own emotional needs with the steadiness you once sought outside yourself. You've learned to recognize your own value with the certainty you once wished others would show you. This change spreads in ways you may not even notice. Other women witness your quiet strength and are reminded of their own. Your presence allows them to stop pretending to be weak, to stop apologizing for their abilities, to stop diminishing themselves to make others comfortable. You have become a living example that it is possible to rise from abandonment, not bitter, but better, not broken, but beautifully whole. The unique power of your transformation comes from how you have learned to gain nourishment from experiences that could have harmed you. Each disappointment became insight into human nature rather than proof of your unworthiness. Each betrayal taught you discernment rather than fostering cynicism. Each stretch of loneliness strengthened your relationship with yourself instead of convincing you of inadequacy. What sets your journey apart from others who faced similar challenges is your refusal to allow bitterness to harden within you. You have preserved the delicate balance between wisdom and openness, between protection and connection, between strength and vulnerability. Achieving this requires a conscious choice every day, a continual recommitment to growth over grievance, to expansion over contraction. Your story unfolds not toward some far-off point where you will finally be complete, but deeper into the understanding that you are already whole. The strength that once saved you has transformed into the strength that now serves you. The independence that once shielded you has become the foundation from which you freely choose to connect with others. What emerges now is not the need to be rescued, for you have realized you were never drowning. You were always swimming, always navigating, always finding your way to shore. What arises now is the desire to be truly seen, to be genuinely valued, and to be honored for the remarkable journey you've undertaken and the extraordinary woman you have become. The invisible scars you carry tell a story worth sharing. The quiet victories you've achieved deserve acknowledgement. The strength you hold quietly deserves respect. You have earned the right to be seen, not in your weakness, but in your power. Not in your need, but in your abundance. Not in your past pain, but in your present wholeness. You embody something sacred in a world that often overlooks the sacred nature of a woman who has learned to stand in her own light. Your journey from abandonment to self-sovereignty is more than personal transformation, it is spiritual growth. You have transformed suffering into wisdom, loneliness into solitude, desperation into determination. The marks you bear are not signs of damage, but signatures of resilience. They tell the story of a woman who refused to be diminished by circumstances beyond her control, who chose growth over bitterness, strength over victimhood, and integration over fragmentation. These marks make you visible to others who have walked similar paths, forming invisible bonds of understanding that go beyond words. If this message connected with something within you, if you recognized yourself in these 7 marks, share your thoughts below. Your story matters. Your strength deserves recognition. Your journey deserves to be witnessed. Subscribe to continue exploring the deep wisdom that arises when we honor the entirety of our experience, the shadows and the light, the wounds and the healing that transform them into sources of power. The conversation continues, and your voice is vital to it.